Elementary? Or are they across?
No,
It's across. So it's not yet at the point where it's going to be significant in terms of bringing in new grants and things like that, but we are working on just making sure those who are qualifying for those services, that they at least have access to them.
One question.
Mr. Sullivan?
One note I happen to make is relative to particular class year seems to have a lower average daily attendance. Is that blip in the screen, or is that usually due to the challenge of the junior year in high school? I notice grade 11 has
You mean grade 12?
I would say the whole school.
I mean, they all seem to be exceptional, but grade 11 has a lower average daily attendance. So is that because of the challenges of that age? Or in other words, I didn't know if that was in line with statistics throughout the state and or nation, or do we need to
I have
look at
not
that?
seen any statistics, whether state or at the national level, that would pinpoint a specific grade like that. But if you want me to look into it, I can certainly look into it. I know in the past, the high school has been a little bit better in terms of attendance. It could be one of those things that deals with, I don't want to blame the schedule for everything, but that's one significant change from last year to this year.
And the reason I bring up the question, just to give you additional input, is out of concern for, is that age bracket in need of additional attention from support services? Overall, the average daily attendance is exceptional when you compare it to statewide averages. But that's where we're seeing a little bit of a downward trend. So that's the reasoning behind my question. So sure, if we can look into that, that's
Give me a chance to look into it with the high school, and we'll bring something at the next meeting.
great.
Yeah, I just, real quick, I was going to ask the same thing, except for the entire school. 92.8 seems a little low. I know the state kind of looks for the 95 number.
95.
Yeah, so we're right on with the other buildings. A couple of hundredths off at the elementary school, but right in there around 95. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. And graduation rate, this is too low.
Actually, we're not going to present that today. We did go on the website, and we had some information come back from the state that at this point, they do not want us to publicize the rates.
Okay.
They're not ready to do that statewide, so we're going to have to hold off. All I can say is it's better than it's been in the past.
Okay, very good.
We'll leave
Thank
it
you.
at that.
Thank you. We'll look forward to the state loosening the iron fist on that information.
I still don't know why they're holding on to it, but there it is.
Letter E, the fiscal year 10 budget review. Dr. Colley?
This would be December 31st budget information that you have in front of you. It is the end of the second quarter, so we provided you with the more detailed budget worksheets. One of the things that I have asked Mrs. Souza is to work with me to put together a set of transfers for you for probably the next school committee meeting. As you can see, some of the lines are going into deficit. Some of them are simply things that we don't put into the budget until they happen. For example, in the first line, clerk substitute, we sometimes have a need for clerk substitutes, sometimes not. We used some amount of time to cover for Karen's vacation, so we need to transfer that from other lines that are there in the budget. Sorry about that. The other one is we have, for example, at the high school, a long-term substitute that we've been using at the high school for science. Again, we don't budget anything into that line until we start doing the expenditures, and then we move monies from the teacher salary line into that. So we carry extra money, but we don't actually put it into the line until we spend it. So you're going to see some minuses in there that I think it's halfway through the year, at least in terms of the summary of the budget, and I think we can start to bring to you some actual transfers so the budget doesn't look to be out of whack, so that you know that, yes, we're keeping track of those lines and why they're in the negative. The same thing you're going to see in professional development days. As we spend those days, we basically want to report them to the state as professional development. We actually have to report them differently when you go into the end of the year report for the state. So when you do the, you pay the teachers because they're here, it's part of their contract, but where we account for it in terms of the accounting for end of the year reports would have to go under professional development. So the professional development line right now shows as a negative, but the money is sitting in the teacher salary lines. So you will see that as one of the big transfers that you're going to see. Again, I don't see a problem with the budget this year. In fact, and I will build on this when we go into looking at the budget for FY12, we're starting to see some of the monies in special ed where we've done some changes in some of the placements for the students, so we may see some amount of money being left over on those special ed lines for this year. And hopefully that will be an assistance to us in next year's budget, which would be the next part of the agenda. Along those same lines, we do have the revolving accounts that we put in there. And one of the pieces that I would point out is that as the year goes on and we bring in the revenue, even the lines like preschool that originally were in what seemed to be a deep deficit is simply because we encumber the salaries for the teachers for the year. But as we collect the funds for the parents who do pay for that service, that deficit should begin to disappear. If you take a look, page 1, 2, page 3, where we have the school lunch, again, it looks like a large deficit. However, the revenue is still coming in as we expected. So I'm hoping to save that carry forward balance. One of the things I've asked Michelle Raposa, our Director of Food Services, Transportation, what else, HR, a little bit of data, everything. I did ask her to start getting some quotes for some of the very, very, very